Yashodanandana Prajanarandana Yashodanandana Prajanarandana Punati Ravanata Yamunati Ravanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Varada Yashodanandana Prajanarandana Yashodanandana Prajanarandana Yamona Tiravanachari Yamona Tiravanachari Ramadava Kunda Vihari Jaya Prabhu Jaya Prabhu Pada Jaya Prabhu Pada Jila Prabhu Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudiraye Nasta Preshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatya Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Before reciting Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God, right? Unto Narayana, Shri, the secret person Shri, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and Shri Vasudeva. By regular attendance in classes of the Bhagavatam, by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, whose praise through transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable. So today, I wanted to give a brief orientation for the Srimad Bhagavatam, and who can share what's the setting of the Bhagavatam? How was the Bhagavatam spoken? How did it come about? Go ahead.
Maharaj Parikshit was influenced by Krishna to make a little mistake, and then he got cursed. But the Brahmana boy, the son of the person he actually offended, and to die in the next basically week. And so he goes to see the sages and wants to learn about, the purpose of life before leaving his body.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, the Srimad Bhagavatam started off with a curse to this great king who comes from this, really famous family, the Kuru dynasty. And the family was already famous before the Pandavas came, so it was already a glorious dynasty. And so all of a sudden he's cursed because of his moment of anger that he had, and he put this dead snake on the sage who did not offer him water when he arrived at the sage's house. It's an Indian thing. When I came in India, you expect when you go somewhere, for them to at least offer water. When I came to America, I was shocked. People wouldn't offer me anything. When I go to the house, I was just so stunned. Even devotees wouldn't offer, and I was just stunned. I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I was like, "Okay, this is America. I gotta get used to this." Um, so yeah, it's a part of Vedic culture. When a guest comes, you offer them kind words, a place to sit, and water. So as this culture, at least in the Vedic perspective, and even in America, they should be doing it. I know many Americans do it, not putting that in America. But yeah, that's just the culture. So he was just so shocked. And I'm the king. How is this? Brahmana is not even doing anything, offering any water. And so then he didn't curse him for that snake. He got cursed. A lot of the moments in the Bhagavatam, a lot of moments of realization in the Bhagavatam come from ill events, like somebody getting angry, somebody getting, somebody dying. Like Joe Marge's case, he also got angry because he was mistreated by his stepmother. He really wanted to go sit. He was only a 4-year-old kid. Wanted to go sit on his father's lap. The stepmother was like, "You can sit on his lap in your next birth when you come out of my womb." Like, okay, like wouldn't expect someone to say that to a 4-year-old. So then he was so distraught and he was so angry. And his mother just said, "Well, you have to go to the Supreme Personality God it for anything you want. So go to the forest and do austerity over there." And so he went meditate, for meditation austerity. So he did that, and then Narada Muni too. When he was a kid, his mother died by a snake bite. So a lot of the incidents you see in the Bhagavatam, it comes out because of curses or somebody died or some ill events. But the point of the Bhagavatam is that it doesn't matter where it comes from, even if it comes from tragedy. And to be frank, sorry to be gloomy, but in the material world, a lot of realizations do come out of tragedies sometimes. And so that's the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the setting of the Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadeva Goswami then arrives and he speaks the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. And he's at this point where he's totally materially exhausted. That's his grandmother, right? No, great grandmother. When Kunti said that, one needs to be a kinchana gochara. One has to be materially exhausted. One has to exhaust all possibilities in this world that this will give me happiness. This person will give me happiness. That will give me happiness. This marble floor will give me happiness or distress or something. But yeah, it's like one has to exhaust all of that. For India, it's this nice black and white marble floors. But in the West, people. But yeah, so it's like, one has to exhaust all those many options that this particular thing will own. If I only had this one thing, I'll be happy. You'll never be happy. It's an illusion if you think it's only one thing that I'm missing. People think if I had all the money in the world, I'll be happy. You think all the rich people are happy? Yeah, no, they're not. In case you didn't know that. But so the Srimad Bhagavatam is there to remove these various illusions. And there's this famous verse in the first canto, chapter 5, and we'll do the Sanskrit in a second.
It actually seemed to imply, what you said seems to imply that, we have to exhaust every material attachment, which
means that, does that mean that we can't just sit there and read and just suddenly, just by reading somehow, and you just realize, oh, that's useless, and then you just move on, and then you completely become detached? Like, usually we do go through a practical experience.
Oh yeah.
Because it's Kali Yuga,
Didn't
right?
come across, like I was saying, just by sometimes, I mean, just by reading even that happens. But yeah, oftentimes, I mean, there's three ways of learn, right? One is by hearing. You hear about it, you know, you hear from the Bhagavatam or the first highest class intelligence. You hear from the Bhagavatam or the spiritual master that, you know, this is not the best thing to do, or this is the best thing, and you say, oh great, you know, my authority said this, and they have realization, and then you just do it. I mean, there's many things I'm sure you also done where you just heard and you're like, yeah, this makes sense, I want to do it. So there's that highest level. The second level is you see somebody else do it, and it go through something, and then you realize, yeah, this is crappy. I don't want to go through this. This person's suffering. I don't want to go through that. That also happens. A lot of us, we see people doing all kinds of silly stuff, and then we're like, yeah, I'm not gonna. And then the third is when we experience ourselves. So yeah, in Krishna consciousness also there's, you know, different levels of realizations, and some things we realize through hearing, some by seeing, some by experiencing, and sometimes we have to experience it over and over again for some things. So yeah, and the thing is, when we study the Bhagavatam while we're going through all this, then the Bhagavatam, you'll hear more actually as all this stuff is happening in your life. You'll hear more from the Bhagavatam. If you really take shelter of the Bhagavatam, then the Bhagavatam will speak to you. So it goes hand in hand, the experience and the hearing actually. It all goes hand in hand.
I think you missed one. That's the three types of intelligence: learning from others without having to experience, learning from experience, and then experiencing and not learning.
Oh yeah, not yeah. We have to do it again. Exactly. Yeah, it'll come again.
There's a song that I like that has a wisdom that just says, there's two ways to learn in this life: get burned by the fire or see the light.
So different ways to get materially exhausted. All right, let's do the. Let's see, can we do the verse actually first? And we'll do the verse. It's from Canto 1, chapter 5, text 11. So Prabhupada was in Vrindavan when he was translating the first canto, and this is a very famous verse, and let's do Sanskrit. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo. Yasmin prati shlokam abhadyavattapi. Yasmin prati shlokam abhadyavattapi. Namanyanantasya yashonkitani yad. Namanyanantasya yashonkitani yad. Shinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. Shinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo. Yasmin prati shlokam abhadyavattapi. Namanyanantasya yashonkitani yad. Shinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. Advair visargo janataga viplavo. Yasmin prati shlokam abhadyavattapi. Namanyanantasya yashonkitani yad. Srinvanti gayanti grinandi sadhava. Adva visarga janataka viplavo. Yasmin vati slokam abhadyavadapi. Namananantasya yashom kitanya. Srinvanti gayanti grinandi sadhava. See you together. Thought that Vak, vocabulary, Visarga, creation, Janata, people in general, Aga, sense, Viplava, revolutionary, Yasmin, in which, Pratishlokam, each and every stanza, Abhaddhavati, irregularly composed, Api, in spite of, Namani, transcendent names, etc. Anantasya, of the unlimited Lord. Here. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Collectively, the purport.
It is a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stalk of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. While preparing the commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. Our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India with a militaristic spirit. We have practically no business in the political field, yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted, and simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause of quarrel between the two countries, China and India, over land, which is not very suitable for habitation. And certainly there is no cause for fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world to do all the supermost good, as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work, there is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general are re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere. Oh, and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies, despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration. The leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty Lord. When there is a fire in the house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language of the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of this world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success.
So yeah, Prabhupada is in Vrindavan, and the war just broken out between China and India, and Prabhupada's making this comment in the Bhagavatam that there's wars there. And but again, the whole purpose of human form of life is to go back to God. Prabhupada's making this point that there'll be all kinds of fires, and the Bhagavatam has the solution to the ultimate fire of birth, death, disease, birth, old age, birth, death, old age, and disease. And it doesn't matter what language one presents that message. If one is really following the Srimad Bhagavatam and following the previous teachers, that message will be felt. And we see that often, when you go out there, talk to students or talk to anyone, share Krishna consciousness, and they can feel it. They can feel your realization. They can feel it. And Prabhupada himself was the best example for this. He was born in the 19th century, came from in the Victorian era in India, and he grew up in Bengali family, never left India, and then he came not just to the U.S., but he came to the Lower East Side, where there was a hippie revolution going on, and that was their whole thing was to reject the previous generation. Their whole thing was to reject whatever anyone else told them what to do. That was their whole thing. It was sex, rock and roll. That was the whole thing. And here Prabhupada comes and he goes, there are these 4 regulated principles. No intoxication, no sex, no illicit sex, and what other thing? No eating. No gambling. Yeah. I guess they weren't gambling that much. It's been a while. Yeah. I don't know what their 4 regs are anymore. It's been too long. But so Prabhupada, was able to convey them because he presented this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam from a place of love and realization. And these young hippies who came to him felt his palpable love and realization. And they felt this palpable love because of his love for his spiritual master and the previous acharyas and so forth. And so, he went to the US with these translations from the previous acharyas, from his guru, I believe it was a book, and from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he had these books, and he would use those books, he would take those commentaries and translate the Bhagavatam. When he got to the US, he kept translating, of course. And so, people would feel that. And so whatever realization we have from the Bhagavatam, we can share it with others. And the Bhagavatam is a living person. It's not just a book. And I'm sure all of you have experienced that with the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam and any books translated and commented by Prabhupada. You can not only feel the original author, you can not only feel Krishna, you can also feel the various teachers who have written these commentaries. And you can feel Prabhupada's presence if you tune into it. The quote this morning when Prabhupada said, he said something to that effect, right? He said you just have to kind of tune into Krishna. And so Krishna is here, Gaura are here. We just have to tune into that frequency. And when you do that, you can feel it. You can feel their presence. You can feel they're here. They're not just statues. The book is just not a book. It's Krishna's literary incarnation. So when we approach the Srimad Bhagavatam with the mood of, I'm here to serve you by through my intelligence, by studying, by by you know, by really trying to imbibe whatever the Bhagavatam says in our lives. In the Bhagavatam, who would you say is the personality who gets like put down a lot throughout Bhagavatam? Yeah, Indra. Poor guy, poor Prabhu. I mean, uh, it's still Lord Indra. Lord Indra really like goes through a lot. Makes a lot of mistakes and so forth. And at some point, I realized it's us. It's about us actually. Lord Indra is not just some guy in the sky. It's happening. Krishna's arranged all this so that we can, and specifically, it's in the Bhagavatam. It's there so that we can learn from his lessons and so forth. We learn from his lessons and we see how he rectified his mistakes and what he learned from it. Even Lord Brahma, when he went stole the cowherd boys and the cows, even that we can get so much realization from that. And if in each pastime if we can put ourselves in the shoes of these various people who've gone through these many things, and then we can see the realizations that we can apply in our lives. And so that's the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's there so that we can come closer to Krishna. And in each of these incidents, be it Indra, be it Lord Brahma, be it all the lessons of Vrindavan, be it whoever, Gajendra, be it whoever it was in these pastimes, all of them got closer to Krishna through whatever they went through. The point was that in the end you hear and chant about Krishna. You give your heart to Krishna, and so they all did that. And Parikshit Maharaj, of course, the central character of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he also did that. And in the end, of course, he goes back to Godhead. And everybody, Dhruva Maharaj, so the whole point of all these various pastimes is that, as we're going through different things, and you'll see it, as you read the Bhagavatam, you'll see how people go through envy, how people go through sadness, how people go through anger, how people go through, or how people go through happiness and victory and joy. And the point is they go through all this and they still surrender to Krishna. Bali Maharaj was so strong. He conquered the 3 universes and then he lost it all. But throughout the whole thing, especially in the end. But he was a devotee of Vishnu. He was a devotee and he surrendered to Vamanadev. Actually, Vamanadev's appearance is going to come next month. But yeah, he surrendered to Vamanadev. So this material world is full of dualities. There will always be happiness and distress coming from different angles. And the Srimad Bhagavatam teaches us how we can be somewhat detached from it. We don't have to be completely aloof from this world. Some people are, but we don't have to be completely aloof. I think in the Bible is there, or in Christian they say, be in the world but not of the world. Is it in the Bible? Something like that. So yeah, we have to be in this world but not of the world. And so, but it doesn't mean that we're not responsible either. But we do everything as a service to Krishna. Deep in our heart, we do it for Krishna. It might look, that's the difference between a devotee and just, some other person out on the road, out on the street. They're doing it mostly because they're scared. People have jobs because they don't want to be homeless or something, they want to have enough. But the devotee does it because, well, it's practical, sure, but also they do it because they do it as an offering to Krishna. Like, let me do it for you, for Krishna. And they see it that this money that's coming or whatever resources that are coming, they don't think it's coming from this company that they're working for. They see that it's coming from Krishna directly. It might be coming through different agents, but it's actually coming from Krishna. And so that's the perspective a devotee has, and that's the perspective Srimad Bhagavatam wants us to have. And so at this point, let's go to the little slides. So let's go through the 10 subjects matter. I have to be quick at this, of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so the first thing that Parikshit Maharaj asked Shukadeva Goswami is about, like, how is it that everything was created? And if you think about it, in the past 100 years or so, or maybe 200 years, the scientists, they have been so actually more than 200 years, I guess, because they've been trying to study the atom. They've been trying to figure out, like Kepler and what's the famous guy, Galileo, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody else, Newton, of course. But yeah, all those, and they were actually religious leaders. At least Newton was religious, and I believe maybe Kepler wasn't. But all of these people, they were actually into religion, but they were also scientific, so they wanted to figure things out. So for hundreds of years, humans have been trying to figure out, how was all this set up? And so that's the first thing basically that Parikshit Maharaj looks into, like, what about creation? How did this all come out? So that's the first subject matter, creation, sarga, primary creation. So you see in that little picture, there's Lord Vishnu has described that from Lord Vishnu's pores, all these universes come out. As he breathes out, the whole creation comes out. And there's so many universes, and each universe, there's another Vishnu, and from that Vishnu's navel, Lord Brahma is there. So if you remember from the second canto, it described that Lord Brahma was there. Then he created, which is the second slide, Visarga, the secondary creation. So I found this interesting picture. Yeah, there's Lord Brahma sitting on the lotus that comes out of Lord Vishnu, and then he's creating all these planets and whatever else is needed to be created for the universe, basically, and all the entities. I guess we're gonna go through that in the third canto, where he starts creating few people, and then he tells them, please. They call the Prajapatis. Praja means the public, or and then pati means the husband. So normally a king or the progenitor is called Prajapati. So all these Prajapatis were there, and there's so many, there's a bunch of them. I forget all the names, but there's a bunch of them. Daksha was there, a couple of them was also Prajapati, and so forth. And so they created different, not just humans, they created even other species. It's described in the third canto how the snakes came, the two-hooved animals came, the four-hooved animals came, and so forth. So these Prajapatis start populating the entire universe. So to answer Parikshit Maharaj's question, Shukadeva Goswami talks about Sarga and Visarga, primary creation and then secondary creation. And then after that, next one comes once you build a house, you gotta maintain it. Don't you have to, right? Not that has to do a lot of maintenance these days. So maintenance is the hard part. So in the maintenance part, so once all this universe is created, 7 levels underneath, 7 levels above, and then there's the earthly realm. And so all that is there, and then that has to be maintained. And so the demigods try to maintain it, but ultimately Lord Vishnu is maintaining everything. So that's also described in the Bhagavatam, how all that is set up, and how Lord Vishnu intervenes and helps in maintaining the universe. And of course, there's the little demons who try to destroy the universe, and from time to time, so Lord Vishnu has to step in. Did you know? Fun fact: there's one age where there was nobody to be Lord Indra, so Lord Vishnu had to step in and be Indra. Indra is technically a position, so Lord Indra had to come and do that. One of the ages, so many ages in this material universe. But these are all positions. All right, so next one, maintenance. And then comes then that's all kind of technical up until maintenance. And then starts coming the juicy part of the Bhagavatam. But the thing is, it's aligned in this way so that one can understand how everything is set up. And so Poshanam, Poshan literally means actually to feed or to nurture. So, and of course it can mean protection also, protection by the Lord. So in the Bhagavatam, then it shows how the devotees of the Lord, they're dependent on Krishna, and they're literally being fed by Krishna, fed not just in food but in everything, in all kinds of resources. So that's the portion part, and we saw a movie about that recently. What's it called? Nishingadev? Mahavatar Nishingadev. So Nishingadev, that's like the prime example where this child was being, harassed by his father, and this devotee was being harassed by all these demons. And Nishingadev comes and protects them. And so that's where the Bhagavatam starts building, our faith that don't worry, Krishna's gonna maintain you. Krishna's there for you. Be whatever happened in your life. And did everybody see that movie? Did you see it yet, Sean? No, not yet. You gotta watch it. So yeah, it's pretty. Oh yeah, so yeah. Okay, we can have second Krishna house trip. But it's nice that they made that movie because it shows very dramatically how Prahlad Maharaj was, being, well, they tried to kill him so many times, and how Krishna protected him so many times. And so just when you see it as a visual, it has an impact. Like, yeah, wow, Krishna is really, Krishna protected him so many times through so many things. I think in the movie, there's few ways that they tried, Hiranyakashipu tried to kill Prahlad, which they didn't show in the movie actually. So one was where Prahlad Maharaj was put in hot oil, boiling oil actually. So but he survived. Krishna protected him. And hot tub, yep, there you go. Yep, this is nice. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya." Yes. But yeah, so there were more incidents actually where Hiranyakashipu was trying to kill his son, but yeah, he survived. Krishna protected him. The snakes was there in the movie. Snakes wasn't there either.
A little bit. To it. They said and they tried so many ways, and they kind of did like a hand frame, showed like some snakes swirling.
Oh, okay.
But then they showed where Hiranyakashipu's they threw him into the ocean, and then he got Vishnu. I don't know where that.
That one might not. I don't know. Yeah, if it's not in the Bhagavatam, it's there in other Puranas. I remember it is there somewhere. But yeah, so Lord Nrsingadev, and then of course there's the other pastimes like Gajendra, where Lord Hari came and protected Gajendra, and and then what are some other pastimes in the Bhagavatam where Krishna protects his devotees? Where else? Draupadi, yeah, that's there. The Mahabharata, how especially they were disrobing her. Is that the one you're referring to? Yeah. Krishna comes. You wanna say something? Yeah.
In that pastime, oh, I was just hearing about this one too. In that pastime, Draupadi is a woman, and she has 5 husbands actually, and one of the husbands, Kshatriyas gamble, by trade, like it's something that by nature, it's just something that they have permission to do, and they're not supposed to back down from a bet or a gamble. So one of her husbands lost her in a bet after losing everything else, finally lost her, and so the evil people that won her by cheating, by the way, they tried to disrobe her in a public place in front of many men, and at first Draupadi was fighting back, trying to hold on to her sari. She was praying, Krishna Govinda, please save me, and she was holding on to her sari so that they wouldn't take it off of her. And Krishna wasn't helping right away until she finally let go of her own endeavor and relinquished everything to Krishna's control and shouted Krishna Govinda, and finally he came and provided unlimited amounts of sari on her body so that they weren't able to disrobe her, and they were defeated.
Not only he saved her, he gave her unlimited sari. And which woman won't like that? Yeah.
I want a dhoti like that. I was thinking about how Krishna always protects like the cowherd boys. They're always like, la la la, we're having so much fun, and then there's a big donkey demon or a snake demon, and then he bashes their head and their eyeballs come out, and everybody's like, "Yay, Krishna!"
Yeah, Parikshit Maharaj. How in the womb? Oh yeah, of course. You want to say more about it?
Ashwatthama, an envious person, wanted to kill the last heir to a kingdom, and he was in the womb of his mother. So he throws this nuclear weapon that's based off mantras at the womb to kill Parikshit, but Vishnu comes and protects him from the weapon.
yeah, Parikshit Maharaj in that also. It's the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam where Arjuna is driving the chariot. No, he's driving in the chariot and they're chasing Ashwatthama. And all of a sudden, Ashwatthama throws out this nuclear weapon. And then, interestingly, Arjuna doesn't just tackle it. What he does is he turns around to Krishna and prays to him. That's the first thing he does, actually. And and that was the first time. And the second time, he threw that nuclear weapon directly at the womb of Uttara, who had Parikshit Maharaj in her womb. And then Lord Vishnu came and saved him. I was thinking about Lord Ram also, how he protected everybody basically from Ravana, and of course he rescued his wife. What other pastimes? Any other incarnations? Was that Amrish Maharaj? Yeah. Oh yeah, just briefly, Amrish Maharaj, where Durvasa Muni, this Durvasa, forget Dur is bad, Vasa, I think it's place. That place. Or he gets angry really fast, real quick, really often. So he was invited by Amrish Maharaj, and he was there, and Amrish Maharaj was fasting, and Durvasa Muni realized that Amrish Maharaj had broken his fast by drinking water without feeding him, so he got really upset, and then he sent this demon, actually, this artistic figure, towards him. And right then, Lord Vishnu sent his disc, the Sudarshan Chakra, and killed the demon. And then that disc kept chasing Durvasa Muni throughout the entire creation, because he was a mystic yogi, so he could go anywhere. He just kept running away from the Sudarshan Chakra. He finally went to Lord Vishnu and apologized, and he said, "You offended my devotee. You have to go apologize to him." So then when he went to him and apologized, then finally Sudarshan Chakra was gone. But yeah, what else? Any other pastimes? Yes. Oh yeah, Haridas Thakur. Yeah, where Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, it's in the Chaitanya Bhagavat where Haridas Thakur was being beaten by these soldiers, who were told to beat him to death basically because he was a Muslim chanting Krishna's names. So neither the Hindus nor the Muslims were happy with this guy, and so he was sentenced to death. And then he was beaten to death, and he was beaten, and then he realized that the soldiers were getting tired, and so he asked the soldiers, "Why are you, here he is being beaten by these soldiers?" And he asked, "Oh, what's causing you distress, sir? You're beating. What's happening here?" He was like, "If you don't die, you're gonna get killed." So he's like, "Oh, why didn't you say so?" So then he just, mystically, he just died through his mystical powers. And then they threw him in the river, and then he floated down the river, came out of the river, and he started chanting Hare Krishna. And later in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Lord Chaitanya revealed to him that, Lord Chaitanya showed his back. He took off his chadar and he showed his back, and he showed all these marks on his back. And he said, "When you were being beaten by these soldiers, I couldn't bear it. I wanted to go there, so I covered you with myself, and they were actually beating me. That's why we were feeling all those beatings." And so Lord Chaitanya protected Haridas Thakur in a way. And yeah, we show that to him. Yeah, what other pastimes of protection? Anyone else? But yeah, there's so many pastimes in the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam then, goes into this section of protection by the Lord. Next one. So the next stop, it keeps going. So I am Mohini Murthy also actually, anyways, we'll talk. And then, of course, then the Bhagavatam talks about the creative impetus, the Uttaya. So basically talks about karma, jnana, and bhakti. And so it shares how people follow different paths in their lives. One can follow karma kanda, where it is still bona fide to follow it, but the idea is that I just want to stay in this material world. I want to have fun, and I want to do it in a way where, it's kind of legal. Yeah, it's a legal way to do it. So that's karma kanda, and then of course, then beyond that, once somebody has done that for like a long time, they're like, well, there should be more to life than just this. So then they start thinking, yeah, maybe I'm not just this body, I'm my mind, my intelligence. Maybe I'm not even all that. I'm like separate from all this. So that's more on the jnana kanda side. And then of course, when they go beyond that, then they come to bhakti. And so one can perform karma kanda and jnana kanda with some devotion also. So that's in the, that's as the graph shows over there. It goes to abhyasa yoga, whereas abhyasa literally means practice. So it's you're doing yoga, you're practicing yoga. So you start practicing. You do your 1 hour sun salutations in the mornings, and so you start practicing yoga, right? And so when the jnanis and the karmis they start using some, start having some faith, basically some shraddha, some faith, then they start practicing bhakti yoga, and then it gradually grows into spontaneous devotional service. So when it comes from those stages, karma and jnana and so forth, and it has to add a little bhakti for it to become yoga. Otherwise, it actually stays in just karma kanda, just basically actions that you do and you get the results of it. You do pious activities, you do get results of it. You do impious activities, you get results of it, and back and forth. So then the Bhagavatam touches on that as well in different sections of the Bhagavatam. Let's go to the next slide. And then the Manvantaras. So the Manus are the one, they make the laws for the time and place and so forth. So each, there's different periods. Sorry, this is too tiny to read even from. So as you see, there's Brahma, right? And then in Lord Brahma's times, it's divided into kalpas, the days of Brahma. And in each day of Brahma, there's manus, which have, I believe, it says 71, right? 71 yugas, divya yugas, so 71 cycles of the four, you have the four yugas, right? So divya yuga is 4 of them together is a divya yuga. So one manu is for 71 divya yugas. So there's these different manus, and in each manu, different incarnations come, and the Bhagavatam talks about these manus, talks about their problems, talks about the different incarnations that come in those periods of those different manus. Yeah, there's just so many manus. Not every manu is talked about in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but there's few of them, like Matsya Avatar, the fish incarnation, that came specifically to help that manu of that time, whose name I forget right now. But so the Bhagavatam also talks about the ages of the manus. Next one. And the Ishanukata, and the stories of the Lord. And so, of course, it goes back to the pastimes of Krishna. And it's sprinkled everywhere, of course. Not just sprinkled, actually. It's a big part of the Bhagavatam. So different stories of the pastimes of Krishna, how specifically, again, how he comes and he saves his devotees, protects his devotees, maintains his devotees. And then finally, in the 10th canto, now that is not just protection, but that's also like Krishna's activities. What he does for fun, what he does for, what he does as a person, actually. So it goes beyond protection then at that point. When it comes to 10th canto, it's just you get to know who this person is. But all these 9 cantos are, lay the foundation for the 10th canto, and that's why Prabhupada said you can't just jump to the 10th canto stories. You should ideally go to the 9 cantos, and all the acharyas have said it, and that's why they said it, because you have to build your foundation until you get to the 10th canto. And then I believe, okay, there's this one too. So Nirodha also is the annihilation, where it talks about, Lord Vishnu, everything getting annihilated, basically. So that's also there in the 12th canto, basically, in the end. And then Mukti, liberation, and at different parts of the Bhagavatam. I mean, all those pastimes have the liberation aspect to it, of course. But primarily, how Parikshit Maharaj, of course, he went back to God. It's not just plain old liberation, but the whole story is about how to get out of the cycle of birth and death also. And then finally, so all those different topics, the 9 topics, are subservient to ashraya or shelter, supreme shelter to Krishna. This is actually from Mother Narayani's book, this graphic. In the center, there's Krishna, the ashraya factor, and around that are the 9 petals, or the 9 subject matters of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so Krishna is the shelter of all the 9 topics, and that's the whole point of these various 9 topics. Also, that ultimately one has to take shelter of Krishna. All right, this is a very quick overview of the 10 subject matters of the Bhagavatam.
Do these 9 subjects correspond with the 9 islands of Navadvip? Is that alignment, or is it separate?
No, I don't know about that at all. Yeah. But yeah, so these 9 subject matters of the 10 subject matters of Bhagavatam. Yeah, they all the 9 ones they build to the main one being Ashraya. All right. Any comments, question at this point for the class? Sorry, this was kind of rushed.
Yeah, just because you had pulled it up, can you go back a couple to the incarnations? Yeah, I was just wondering why we kind of in our tradition select which incarnations to honor. I'd say more than others.
Talk more about it.
Yeah, and very specifically why, even though we're claiming that the Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna, it's not even on the calendar, like anything for it.
It's not on the Vaishnava calendar. Let's see, yeah, specifically about Lord Buddha. Yeah, there's 2 Buddhas, right? We read that about that recently also, I think. Well, the Bhagavatam talks about, well, the Buddha's principle was non-violence, whichever incarnation it was. The one on this planet, the other one who was more intergalactic, ending wars all over the place, all over the world. Yeah, his principle was non-violence, but his role was specifically to also pull people away from the Vedic religion. And so sometimes that's why often his whole pastimes aren't as glorified as much because his life story and teachings were basically to lead people away from the religious texts of the Vedic scriptures. And you know, well, he didn't really say it. It was his followers who made Buddhism more about Shunyavad, which was about voidism. He never specifically said, I'm quoting Hirana Maharaj now from his Religion in India class. Maharaj told us that Buddha never said that there is no soul, but in modern day Buddhism now, over centuries now, there's this idea in Buddhism that everything is void. And anyways, that's a separate thing. But the pastimes of Buddha, yeah, that's the primary reason why it's not talked about as much in the Vaishnava traditions. The Vaishnavas who came, the acharyas who came after Lord Buddha had to do a lot to bring back everybody back on track, on following the Vedic scriptures and so forth. So yeah, that's one reason I can think of at least. But yeah, exactly. He had to take a step back, and then Shankaracharya came, and what he did was interesting because Shankaracharya, he spread what Prabhupada calls Mayavad, right? But he did it so that people would at least follow the scriptures again. So that was his main contribution. I mean, he was a devotee of Krishna, he's Lord Shiva himself, and but he had to do this service basically, where he had to spread this Mayavad philosophy, which he wasn't very happy with. But he was just happy to worship Krishna, but he had to do it as a service. Everything is void. Yeah, the core philosophy of Buddhism is just that everything is just basically shunyavad. Everything is nothing. It comes from nothing. Everything goes to nothing. This is all just an illusion, and we don't really exist. Family doesn't really exist. So why are you crying about it? Be detached and so forth. So that's at the heart of it. Yeah, exactly. Why are they? They do believe. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's the I know. That's the idea. In the Brahmajyoti, to my understanding, it's not even doesn't even touch on Brahmajyoti. It's just like it's just white. It's nothing. Yeah. Of course, modern day Buddhism has also tapped into, but interestingly, they had deity worship. So it's been a mix of things. But ultimately Buddhism is all about Shunyavad. And maybe the modern day Buddhists don't talk about it as much actually, because as you said, it wouldn't make any sense. And but at that time, when when Buddha was there, again, but he wasn't also spreading this philosophy per se himself. But it made sense somehow to people, and especially when Buddha was there, people were really looking up to Buddha. But then this Shunyavad philosophy developed not long after he left actually, and people started following it. But then when Shankaracharya came, by that time he was like, "This is nonsense. There is something." Brought people back to the Vedic tradition. All right, losing track. Oh yeah, that question. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the 10 avatars are specifically emphasized by Jayadeva Goswami, and that's why they're so focused in India and in our tradition. But we see from the Bhagavatam there's so many other incarnations also. And now I'm starting to wonder, do we even observe the appearance days of the other incarnations or not? I don't think. But at least they're in the Bhagavatam. Devotees do glorify them. Those who study the Bhagavatam glorify them beyond the 10 incarnations. But yeah, the 10 incarnations are specifically mentioned by Jayadeva Goswami, one of the acharyas, and even in the Bhagavatam, I believe. No, it's just I think it's primarily comes from Jayadeva Goswami actually, and so somehow that's become a lot more popular. So it's focused on that. And the other thing is with these 10 incarnations, a lot of them there's a lot of pastimes along with it. So that's why also that's why there's a lot of talk about it. But of course, it's innumerable incarnations. Yeah, the song. Yeah. Oh no, no, that one. What? Oh, I see which one you're referring to. Yeah, that one. Yes, but not the modern day Jai. Just check be sure. Yeah, yeah, but the Jai. Yeah, I forget how the Jai. It's like 4 or 5 old. 10 incarnations. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then the Shina prayers. So it's 10. Yes, yes, yeah. Well, yeah, there's that too, of course. You glorify Krishna. Oh, right. It's running really late. All right. Then Tvashim Bhagavatam ki.
Quick announcement, you guys. On Saturday, there's gonna be a Harinam at Post Springs. The Russian devotee community does this regularly, and I was thinking it's at 4 p.m. though, so it's kind of late. I was thinking we could go maybe at 3 and have some water fun time, and then join them for the Harinam. They set up really nicely, so I'll send a message about that. But I wanted to go ahead and put that out there. Saturday at 4 p.m. is when the Harinam starts. At 3 is when we can maybe go and hang out. If you guys are free, let me know. Hare Krishna.